You're welcome. The Independent National Electoral Commission, Nigeria's electoral umpire, is organizing, as we speak, a two-day induction retreat in Lagos State for resident electoral commissioners, the RECs, as newly inaugurated ones, 10 of them and the old ones. Well, at that event, which held on Monday and Tuesday, the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakub, said that the commission has prepared 142 recommendations. These recommendations are meant to improve the electoral processes in Nigeria, and these will be presented as reforms in a yet-to-be-published report, which will be made available to the public when it is ready. Now, the reforms are categorized into those for implementation by administrative action. That's by INEC. They would implement that. Majority of those will be implemented by INEC, by the way, the reforms. Those to be implemented by security agencies, those that require an amendment to the electoral legal frameworks, a number of them exist, and by the National Assembly, of course, and those to be implemented by the political parties and other stakeholders in elections in Nigeria. Now, Professor Mahmood Yakubu also said that the Commission has published the report on the review of the 2023 general elections, those contentious elections, and that report is available on its website. We'll look at what to expect from INEC. 142 recommendations by the Commission. Joining us tonight to discuss this, we have Ezenwa Nwangu. He is Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform. He joins us virtually from Abuja. We're also joined tonight by Hamza Lawal. He's the founder of Connected Development Code, and he joins us also virtually from Abuja. I think Hamza, I should add Follow the Money as well, which you're also known for. Gentlemen, it's good to see you tonight. I want to start with you, Ezenwa. Good evening to both of you. 142 recommendations. Now, that's quite a lot. What do you suspect for this high number of recommendations by INEC?
Well, thank you for having me. I think clearly INEC has already released a 503-page report on the 2023 election. And distilling from there is where the recommendations that you are referring to. And it has been compartmentalized into some kind of electoral pyramid in the sense that all the different stakeholders have a peak in the things that they need to look into. Is some kind of reflection, and whether it's 142 or 300 or 500, the room for improvement is, I'm told, is the largest room in the world. So basically, there are some that are going to be legislative, some are attitudinal, some will also require some administrative tinkering. So I don't, because I've already, I've seen the report on the 2023 election, so I'm already conversant with some of those issues. And there is nobody that is equipped to do that than the one that wears the shoe, that conducts the election, and that is the Independent National Electoral Commission. So for me, it's welcome. But I also have a challenge with perhaps the thinking always that once you have an election, then and once you hear the word reform, that you're probably talking about legislative or legal, touching the legal regime. That's not necessarily what it is. And I think that has been broken down in a way that is understandable and chewable by stakeholders. That, for instance, the security agencies have things that they need to, deal with. The question of the number of security agencies that are agents that are deployed in terms of value for money and the rest of them, those have to come to the front burner. Is it necessary to have observers in the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, for instance? That is the platform in which some coordination, where the NSA and the IG and the chair of the Independent National Electoral Commission come together to strategize around security. Do we need to deal with the issue of...
Okay, Ezewa, we'll look at the details as we go on. we'll look at the details as we go. But thank you very much for laying the ground. I want to come to you, Hamzat Lawal. As far as you're concerned, the number is high. What would you add to what Ezenwa has said about these 142 recommendations? Some may off the cuff think that there's a lot of recommendations. Your thinking on the reason behind it?
Well, good evening and thank you for having me. I think that it is not far-fetched. Over 100 recommendations is not a lot. And if you look at it, the recommendations are not only for INEC. I'm very sure, and like the chairman said, security agencies, I'm sure there are some recommendations also for observers and other key stakeholders. Election, there's a lot of players involved. And also political party. A lot of this recommendation also political party would also play their own role. So again, I think it's not far-fetched, but I think for me, we should expect reform, particularly from the lesson from the outcome of the 2023 elections. What are the gains, what are the gaps, and how can we make 2027 better? And using the off-season election to test some of these reforms, both from security agencies, from INEC, from political parties, from observers, even from the media, So because we know that before the elections, the polity was heated. There was fake news, misinformation, disinformation. We dealt with hate speech, and there's that attack. A coordinated attack to some political parties, some candidates, and even women and people with disability that contested. So yes, I know that probably some of this reform would have to approach the National Assembly, but I think most importantly is how Nigerians would accept this reform and also work towards achieving beyond the legal and regulatory framework. How can we come together and really work towards whatever guideline that INEC would release and whatever guideline both security agencies and political parties would release in the lead up to the 2027 political season and election as it is.
All right. So I want to come back to you. Some will ask, I'm sure the people asking out there, if INEC has the moral ground to make recommendations on how to improve Nigeria's electoral process. Some may point to some of the issues that the Nigerian voting public have with INEC from the last election, 2023 general election. What's your view on this?
Well, you know that election is a competitive enterprise and it draws on some level of partisanship. So when you say Nigerians are speaking, you have to discuss who is talking.
No, I said some. I said some.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So some is an unsatisfactory.
So, but I'm asking you, do you think INEC has the moral ground to make such recommendations? What do you think?
That's what I'm coming to. You let me come so that you understand. If there is no other institution that is involved in leadership recruitment process constitutionally than the Independent National Electoral Commission. It conducts these elections. It has an overview of the challenges, the bottlenecks, and all of those issues that have come up in the course of, conducting these elections. And so it can, from an insider's view, provide some understanding of, what the challenges are, and like Hamza said, what the gains are, what the gaps are that needs to be filled. And let me tell you something. The basic challenge is that understanding electoral education is very poor in the country in terms of understanding the legal regime with which even elections are conducted. If you do a sample in your institution there now and ask how many of your colleagues have the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, you'll be shocked that some of the people who pontificate on elections have even no idea about the legal regime with which elections are conducted. So INEC is qualified, and 2023 elections provided some opportunity for different kind of reflection. You can reflect around the role of the judiciary, you can reflect around the role of the security agencies, you can reflect around the role of the observers, you can reflect on the media, and there is no one. All of these stakeholders engage with INEC. And in that relationship, INEC is able to provide some understanding of what needs to change and what needs to be improved on.
Okay. So I want you to answer the question for me to understand. Does INEC have, in your opinion, the moral ground to make recommendations on what will improve elections in Nigeria?
I have already answered that question. It has more than moral grounds.
All right,
it has
thank you.
not just moral grounds, it has constitutional grounds to
All right,
do that,
thank you.
to
Thank
perform
you.
that responsibility.
All right, thank you. Hamzat?
Well, I think this is where I would take you back memory lane. Let's go to 2003 elections. Let's go to 2011 elections and even election that brought President Muhammadu Buhari. I think a lot of time we only look at the gaps and we don't look at the gains that have come into our elections. Today, you cannot have overvoting because of the integration of technology and the introduction of innovation like beavers. So again, INEC has the legal and regulatory framework. There is no constitutionally empowered institution. And I think we need to separate individuals from this institution. You know, and if anybody have problem with some of the individuals at INEC, we should take it up with them and even take them to court. But INEC is the one that is empowered, that has the legal, moral, and constitutional backing to undertake all the reform that is needed. And again, I think we should reflect back on elections where results are even published when electorates are still in the queue. Today, you cannot do that. And if you follow, so because a lot of time people, after results are being announced, a lot of people get carried away with emotions and they don't even follow the legal proceedings. Have you been following the legal proceedings? And I'm not only talking about the presidential election, you know, have you been following some of the governorship electoral proceedings and also following how other people that are disputing the result, how are they making claims and providing evidence? And I think it's really interesting because I've been going to courtrooms, I've been sitting and listening to arguments, you know, from all the electoral tribunals, particularly governorship, because a lot of time people don't focus on the presidential and forget about subnational level. So again, let's go back memory. We've made a lot of gains. Yes, there are still gaps, but I believe there are opportunities where we can leverage on and provide a Nigeria robust electoral system that has state-of-the-art equipment and technology, and where citizens play a role. Because you see, a lot falls back to citizens. If we have a citizens that are enlightened, that are educated, and understand their role, their responsibility, and also understand the powers they have during election and even after election, then I think we'll get it right and it will become much more better.
Okay. So your question is, yes, they have not just constitutional, the moral ground, but constitutional ground as well. Gentlemen, we'll come back to you in a matter of minutes or seconds to continue the conversation, because I have more questions for you. We want to take a break. For those of you watching at home, please stay with us. It's still Politics HQ. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We still have with us Ezenwa Nwagu, chairman of the Partners for Electoral Reform, who joins us from Abuja, and Hamzat Lawal, who is the founder of Connected Development, also joining us virtually from the nation's capital, Abuja. Gentlemen, now you've both said that as far as you're concerned, INEC has, you know, the moral ground, and not just the moral ground, the constitutional ground to, you know, make recommendations. Of course, I agree. But, I mean, this is an organization, a body, that made certain promises to Nigerians. And they say, well, I know you, yeah, I can see you rolling your eyes. You know, made certain promises to Nigerians ahead of the 2023 elections. About more than 300 billion naira was, you know, written down as budget for the organization. I'm not sure about the exact amount they spent, but what was requested was above 300 billion naira. And that election failed to live up to expectation from all accounts. And you can refer to the observer reports, you know, including that of civil society, not just foreign election observers, but civil society in Nigeria. So the commission told Nigerians that there will be the use of the beavers. The commission told Nigerians that there will be what is called electronic transmission or upload of election results, real time. And in the presidential election, there was a failure to do that. So it's therefore easy to understand why some Nigerians will say, what exactly are these people talking about? I want to react to that first.
Well, I think you are part of the problem. That's the only way I can start. And because the framing of the question itself proposes that 2023 election didn't have the level of success that, and you are referring to observer reports. And I wanted you to put which observer report. Election is a is a process. So are you talking about voter registration? Are you talking about
I was very clear. I don't know if you heard me.
Hold on.
No, please, let me clarify before you misrepresent what I said. I didn't talk about the entire election. I was specific. I talked about the presidential election. And I was specific. I talked about the use of the beavers. And I talked about electronic transmission of votes, real time. That's what I said.
Are you the one being interviewed or me? Can you hold on now? Let me see something.
I have to put this in perspective. Go on.
The challenge is that you are talking about beavers. Now, the beavers performed in 98% of the polling units where it was deployed. So I don't know by what metrics you would say that was not a success. 98%, and I'm talking about all the observer reports that is for 2023 election. The beavers performed in 98% of the polling units where it was deployed. And the humongous figures that you used to bring out from Lagos, from River State, from Kano, all of that couldn't happen because voter identity theft was minimized in 2023 election. So I wouldn't know that statistics is available in the public space. So when you say the beavers, I'm very
I don't know if we're being serious and we're playing to the gallery. You are aware, and I mentioned electronic upload or transmission or upload of votes.
No, but you said beavers. You said beavers.
What would have been used? What would have been used to upload the results, real time?
The beavers is the same. Listen, the beavers is the same machine that is the IREF, and what the IREF does is upload. It is not a collation of results. It's upload. Now remember that the results have been given, that result that is uploaded have been given to party agents at the polling unit level. And that there's a form E60E that is pasted on the wall before the upload is done. So if there are challenges in terms of uploading, it does not remove the fact that party agents already have that result. And that's the point that you need to understand. That yes, the upload may have had challenges in the presidential election, but the party agents who has responsibility to pick up results for their party had already copies before you talk about upload. And that is important because that is not being situated correctly. And the reason why you see me getting very agitated about this is because it has run on for too long.
But Ezra, you're talking about, you're navigating and narrowly avoiding what I said. I talked about electronic upload of result sheets, real time, as was promised by Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the INEC chairman.
I am telling
and you're talking about IREF. Ezra, I asked you a question. Please answer. What device, please, can I ask you my question, sir? Can I ask you my question, please? Stop interrupting me. What device would have been used to upload the result sheets to the IREF?
The IREF, the beavers transmutes. It is not the same machine. It transmutes. It is first called IVED when it is for voter registration.
Please. I expect you to know this now. IREF is the portal. It's the portal where it's uploaded to. The device, is used to snap.
That portal is a viewing center.
I'm asking you what device was used to snap the results for upload. Anyway, we'll try to get Ezenwa back. I don't know what's happening to his internet connection. Maybe what happened to the beavers on election day is what's happening to him, where he just went off, and we don't know. They said it was a technical error. How was that?
I am telling you that snapping that abroad.
We're talking about here. Ezenwa, we'll allow you to recalibrate yourself, like INEC did after the election when one of the parties wanted the devices. They couldn't get access to it. Please recalibrate your device. Hamzat, over to you. This is, you've heard what I said, so I just want to allow you to talk about this. Please go on, Hamzat.
Okay, first, I think, yes, a lot of Nigerians were not happy that they could not see the result in real time. But come to also think about it. I would quote two people's reports who were election observers and who connected development and gave accreditation. One is Dean Initiative and the other is Budget. And what they did was to deploy observers to all the local government, because once the results are sorted and counted at the polling unit, They now go to the local government coalition center and collect all the results. So what they did, with our support, was to go to all the 704 local governments and observe collation of the results. And in the observation of the collation of results, they were also using a platform, I can't remember the name, which is more like a result collation center that is virtually. And from what all indication, all the results that INEC was rolling out, even if it was manual, after their collation, it was the same on the platform. Because again, yes, Nigerians are not happy, and I'm sure if the IREV works because of the upload of results, we'll see more transparency and accountability. But that does not take away the fact that when you look at the electoral law, and when you also look at INEC guidelines, it's quite clear how results are being collated and how results will be announced, by INEC itself. So again, I can understand the frustration of Mr. Estenwa as a civil society leader. And I think as media, we're not helping our country if we continue to overflow the matter. Yes, we must hold people to account. INEC got over 300 billion, and they cannot hide under the guise of technical issue or even cyber attack. And I think this would have been laid to rest if the INEC chairman, someone called and just apologized to the Nigerian people. Probably this would have gone a long way. But if we continue to dwell like this, we're not helping the Nigerian people. And this would also help increase voter apathy. And we don't want that in 2027. Yes, we know that the BVAS machine helped to counter overvoting, but then in the upload, it failed because of the technical issue, whatever that means that INEC had highlighted. But again, I think we need to make progress and, look at what are the recommendations, how can we make it better, and how can we have, cyber security that would ensure we don't have a repeat in 2027.
Okay, Hamza, thank you. Isn't why he said it, that the BVAS failed to do what INEC promised, which was the real-time upload and transmission of election results to the IREF portal where Nigerians could view it real time. So are you going to admit that that happened? And then also to answer my question as to if INEC promised and they didn't deliver, what moral justification do they have to make any recommendations for electoral reform in Nigeria? We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I think you're on mute.
Please, kindly unmute yourself, please. Kindly unmute yourself. Sorry about that. You're muted. Can you check your device, maybe? Your Zoom may be muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Fantastic. We can hear you now, sir. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not admitting what you want me to admit. I am saying, and I will repeat that again, that first and foremost, our electoral process in the main is manual. And that these results that you are harping on have already been given to party agents. I will repeat that again. And that the law says after you have given them to the party agents, you should upload them to a viewing center. The purpose of that viewing center is not to collate results. The purpose of that viewing center is because in previous elections, you cannot find any Nigerian election results.
But I don't know. So you're still not answering my question. I'm sorry to interject you. Did INEC promise real-time upload and transmission of election results using the BVAS on IREF portal?
If it failed, if that failed in the presidential election, is that the only election that was conducted?
No, I'm asking you. You're failing to admit.
No. See, the point is, I am telling you that there were issues for the presidential election. Some results had already come into that, and there were issues. And even as we're doing this now, there can be issues. So it does not by itself inveigh on the quality and integrity of that process. That's the point that I'm making. And you're asking me to answer you the way you want. You want me to admit that
no.
It failed. And I'm telling
you're beating around. You could say no. It was not promised. It was promised and all that. Anyway, gentlemen, I'm going to make this. How do you think these recommendations? Would you think these recommendations will have any effect or any impact on elections going forward? Reason I'm saying this is that we've had recommendations. We had the guidelines for the conduct of the elections where INEC put certain guidelines and practices in place that were meant to be observed. What was the outcome? So will there be anything different this time? Hamzat?
Oh, yes, there would be. There've been experience gathered. INEC have identified gaps, and civil society have identified, and observers have identified the challenges of those gaps. I think it will greatly impact election in 2027. And we also know that some of the leadership of INEC would not be the ones to conduct 2027 election. So probably this will also boost our public confidence, because I know that, yes, INEC have lost public confidence because of some of the promises that they made, and they were not able to achieve those promises. But I think those recommendations largely would impact the elections. And we're already seeing some of the impact even in off-season elections, for instance, that of Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa elections. For me, I'm particularly worried around vote buying and vote selling, voter inducement, and how security agencies can work with anti-corruption agencies, civil society, and INEC to ensure that perpetrators are put behind bars, because we must make a lesson from people. If we cannot run an electoral cycle without consequence. So people must be held accountable, but also people who induce voter and try to manipulate the system. In all of this, as the host, you can look at INEC and want to blame INEC for some of the gaps. But we all know that it's due to political party and politicians' interference that is still hampering on INEC to deliver on their mandate. If we have a country that allows INEC to truly be independent, where politicians and their political party would not interfere in INEC's process and procedures, then we'd have better election outcomes.
All right. Okay. Interesting. I'll allow you to answer the question when we come back from the break. Sir, you give me a challenge. I was talking about, anyway, when we come back, I'll reply your challenge. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're still talking about INEC's promise to present Nigerians with 142 recommendations on how to improve the electoral process in Nigeria. We joined tonight on Politics HQ by Ezenwa Nwangu, who is chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform. He joins us virtually from the nation's capital, Abuja. We also have Hamzat Lao, founder of Connected Development Code, and of course, Follow the Money, both joining us virtually from Abuja. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Ezenwa, I want to go back to you because you were challenging me, asking me, which report do I have on the election? I should present it to you. I'm going to read to you the report on the 2023 election excerpts from the Civil Society Situation Room, which I won't be surprised if you're a member of the Civil Society Situation Room. If you're not, then you should be, since you're in civil society. I know Hamzat knows about this report well. But it says on page 35, please, on page 35, it says that in Nigeria, counting of votes and collation of results are usually most contested aspects of elections. It also goes on to say that INEC result viewing portal ahead of the 2023 elections, INEC introduced IREV, let me shorten it, as a dedicated web portal for the public to view polling unit results as soon as they were finalized on election day. That polling unit results can still be viewed on the portal, made IREV an invaluable repository of election results, and it goes on to say blah, 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 blah. But interestingly, it says that on its part, INEC consistently reassured Nigerians. So I don't know if you can hear me, if your device is working. It says INEC consistently reassured on page 36, reassured Nigerians that election results will be electronically transmitted to IREV from the polling units. Nigerians went into 23 elections with assurance that technology will eliminate the issues that have dented the credibility of past elections in the country. From many, the technology was regarded as game changer in 2023. I'm sure you're aware of that word, game changer. Now, it says, yet on election day, Nigerians were deeply disappointed by the glitches experienced in the use of IREV. Ezen, are you there? Situation Room.
I'm listening to you. I'm just
okay, all right, sorry. This is the Situation Room, Civil Society.
I'm listening to you defending
Situation Room observed that election officials in many polling units were unable to access the IREV portal to upload results of the presidential election, there are reports of election officials who either refused or were unable to upload the results. It says the Situation Room observers reported that no presidential election result was uploaded to the IRF portal as at 8 p.m., not even 1, on election day. In instances where upload occurred, the results were not legible or were defaced. Some uploads were not relevant as pictures of individuals or scenes on the location. We're snapping the bushes around, wall and all that were uploaded. So, I've read just a snippet of that election report by the Civil Society Situation Room. Are you still going to deny what civil society is saying?
I don't know who you are defending and what you are defending, but let me come straight to you.
I'm presenting you facts.
I was a two-time steering member of Situation Room that you are talking about, and I don't want to go into that. I don't want to go into that conversation. But what I need you to understand, and very clearly, is that your election is a process, it's not an event. If you had challenges with the presidential election, you did not have challenges with the other elections. That's number one point that you need to agree. And we are talking about general election. So when you single out the presidential election and use it to, continue to push to reduce the confidence of the voting public in the electoral process, I have a challenge with that. That's number one.
I'm not singling it out. It's civil society situation room. It's not me. I was just reading.
I allowed you to finish.
No, but you've made an allegation. I'm not singling it out.
I allowed you to finish.
Go on. I've made my point. Please go on. Please go on.
I never interrupted you.
You said I'm singling it out. That's not what I'm doing.
Yes, but that's what you're doing. So
no, I read the report.
The fact is that the 2023 election has gains, it has challenges. As I'm sitting here now, I have the 2011 report of INEC, I have the 2015 report of INEC, I have the 2019 report of INEC. Now, these reports have more than 100 recommendations, like the current one that you are talking about. Now, the improvements that you have seen in the 2022 Electoral Act were as a result of some of those recommendations that came from. So because you are asking about whether they have the moral authority to, make this.
No, you've answered that. I'm just responding to your attempt to sidestep the question when I asked. I talked about INEC's promise to use IREV and BVAS to upload to IREV, and you refused to acknowledge the fact. And you asked me for an example of the report, and I presented it to you. And you're accusing me now of singling it out.
I said you are singling it out, and that you are not looking at the election from the point of it being a general election, and that there could be challenges in one process, and that does not inveigh on the integrity.
This was the presidential election. This was the presidential election. And
so the
Situation Room says that as at 8 p.m., not even 1.
The challenge is that subnational elections are more important than the presidential election.
Okay, so presidential elections are not important.
So, no, I'm just telling you because you are weighing in. You are saying these are presidential. The challenge is that perhaps you also don't understand that the subnational is as critical as that presidential. And let me tell you, in this election, that this 2023 election that you are talking about, in terms of his report, are you not going to read? Can you also read some of the gains that came from it? That 7 governors lost their deposit to go to the Senate.
All right, I want to allow Hamzat a quick say on this. Hamzat, everyone here is saying that the presidential election is not the only election. There were other ones. So would you agree that the presidential election may not really need our attention? It's not as important to be given such an attention. Hamzat.
I know Izenwa very well, and this is not the first time I'm engaging with him. I think that we have a duty to inform, educate, and sensitize the Nigerian people. I am not sure why there's this heated debate or argument between you, the host, and Mr. Izenwa, but I would not want to dwell on it. For me, what's important is how can we make progress, because 2027 is just around the corner. And how can Nigerians be better informed? And how can INEC also ensure that they play their role judiciously? How can security agencies also play their role? If you ask me, I would think that the 10th National Assembly will want to even do an independent audit of the 2023 general elections to gain lessons and insights. Maybe the Public Accounts Committee can also invite the chairman of INEC to say, how have you utilized the over 300 billion? So we get specific so that when they provide a budget presentation, then we can see what are the discrepancies, what are the gaps, and how can we do better. So for me, it's about the Nigerian people having a robust electoral process and also gaining confidence in public institutions and having people of integrity.
All right, we'd like to end on that note. That confidence in public institutions is, I think, what the task and the major challenge will be, because that confidence has been eroded to a large extent. But gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for your time. Ezewa Nwagu, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform, and Hamzat Lawal of Connected Development to Follow the Money. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. Ezewa, it's been good to have you.
Thanks.
See you again.